I am knowing and trusting here now that God is present, omnipresent in each and every person. I recognize God's omnipotence, all powerfulness, omniscience, all knowing, and omnipresence in each and every person and every space in between. I am here knowing and trusting that each and every person is open to receive this message, and I am knowing and trusting that each individual part is blessed, and that our speaker is blessed, that this message is blessed, and that each and every person will take from this sustenance today and spread it out into the world. And so it is.
Good morning. Well, I don't know if it's been windy where you are, but it was really windy at my house this morning. And I'm feeling a little cheated because my talk last week was called Winds of Change. And it would have been really nice if the wind would have been blowing today. Oh, well, maybe that's what caused all the wind to be blowing today. So it's been a blessing for me to be with you for the past 6 weeks. I think it's been the last 6 weeks. And I hope that you have shared these conversations about visioning, about stepping into the unknown, about embracing what it is in our lives that we're ready to embrace, releasing what doesn't work. And as we have talked about that vision, that divine pattern for our lives, right? We are stepping into this month. Our theme is stepping into the unknown. Because so often when we get that, we catch that vision, that divine pattern for our lives, the next step, right, is to step into that vision. And sometimes it can feel awkward. It can feel uncomfortable. We need to embrace that transformation and know that everything that we need to transform is within us. So I hope that in the last 6 weeks since I've been with you, that perhaps your mental equivalent, your idea about what is possible, the range of what you think is possible for your life has expanded maybe just a little bit. Our consciousness is like a bubble that we carry around with us. And that bubble contains within it all of our beliefs about life, all of our past experiences, all those things that we know to be true exist in this bubble that we carry with us everywhere that we go. It is this word that we call our consciousness. But so often as we step into that new pattern for our life, that new vision, that greater yet to be, that big God idea that is trying to have its way in our life, we run smack into this barrier called our mental equivalent. And sometimes we face fear, we face hesitation, we aren't sure what path to take. We see the vision, but we can't yet embody it. Or we're not sure what path to take. Or we have doubt and hesitation about what it means to step into that larger vision for our life. In the book, The Big Leap, the author, Gay Hendricks, calls this the upper limit problem. We start to think that we've gone too far, that we don't deserve any more good in our life, and we contract back in fear. In our Words from the Wiser video this morning, we heard Reverend Barbara Waterhouse talk about this idea of when the outside doesn't match the inside. We tend to sabotage our good. We tend to contract back in fear. And so it is our practice, our opportunity, our invitation to build that mental equivalence that is within us, that mental acceptance, that comfort level. The author of that book, The Big Leap, speaks to this idea of our consciousness, that we have our area, our zone of comfort. What is known, what we know, what we think is possible. And we have to expand that consciousness. Sometimes it's just an inch in front of us. But we have to be pushing and improving and expanding our awareness, or be able to perceive the good in our life, what we think is possible. Because the truth is that if we're not expanding our consciousness, if we're not expanding our comfort zone, if we're not expanding and growing, that comfort zone, that consciousness tends to shrink. Have you noticed? If you don't occasionally push your comfort zone, push your bubble just a little bit, it starts to contract. Expanding the vision for our lives, stepping into that unknown, requires trust. It requires spiritual practice, spiritual discipline to embody, to invoke that higher idea in our life. It requires that sometimes we feel uncomfortable. We have to push past that fear, push past that hesitation that we fear when we're stepping into that greater vision for our life. When I first decided to step into the role of being a practitioner, I was a bit terrified. It wasn't because I didn't think I couldn't do it. It was because I knew at the core of my being that once I expanded that consciousness, once I expanded that bubble, there was no going back. There was no going back to that comfortable bubble again. And here I am again in the process of expanding my consciousness, expanding my comfort zone, expanding that bubble once again by going to ministerial school. I am meeting amazing teachers, amazing students. I am learning amazing things. But it's not always easy. And let's be real, sometimes it just feels like a lot of work. Sometimes it's uncomfortable and unbelievingly frustrating. But I know that there is this divine idea. It's not who I am yet, but I am on the path, and I'm ready to step into that bubble. I'm ready to work towards that greater vision, that greater pattern. So that's where this idea of the big leap comes from. We have this protective bubble that we place around ourselves. And inside this bubble are all the things that we know how to do and all the things that we can control. And in some ways, this is like Ernest Holmes' idea of a mental equivalent. This is our comfort zone. If you can't imagine the good in your life, you can't embody it. If you don't think it's possible for your life, then it's not. But the principle is, when we don't push out that comfort zone and expand our mental equivalents, it can start to shrink. So it calls us to ask ourselves, Am I not stepping into this vision? Last month we talked about visioning and this greater idea, this new idea, this divine pattern. Am I not stepping into this new idea, this new calling, this new job, this new technology? Am I resisting it because it's simply outside of my comfort zone? There's a meme that goes around Facebook every once in a while that says, when you get tired, learn to rest, not to stop. When you get tired, learn to rest, not to stop. And in a similar way, when we feel doubt and hesitation, we need to learn how to slow down and pay attention. Our fear, our doubt, our hesitation is calling us to be more mindful. Not to shut down, not to run away, but to simply pay attention to what we're doing. And that's where the title for today's talk comes from, Blessitation. It is a combination of blessing and hesitation. That when we hesitate to step into that greater vision for our life, it is a gift. Because it is calling for us to be mindful, to move beyond what we know, to step into a bigger idea for our lives. Emma Curtis Hopkins is known as the teacher of teachers. And she taught the founder of Science of Mind, the founder of our Center for Spiritual Living, Ernest Holmes. And she wrote, "All your affairs, as you now look at them, represent your former way of thinking. They are held together by the glue of your former ideas. All of your affairs, as you now look at them, represent your former way of thinking. They are held together by the glue of your former ideas." When sometimes we get stuck in that glue of our former ideas. When we step into a new idea for our lives, we have to let go of the limiting beliefs that are holding us stuck in place. And I want to share from you this morning from the actual Science of Mind textbook on page 282. And Ernest Holmes says this: "It follows then that the range of our possibilities at the present time does not extend far beyond the range of our present concepts. As we bring ourselves to a greater vision, we induce a greater concept and therefore demonstrate more in our experience. In this way, there is a continuous growth and unfoldment taking place. We do not expect to give a treatment today for prosperity and to have $1 million tomorrow. But little by little, we can unfold our consciousness through the acquisition of greater and still greater mental equivalents until at last, we shall be made free." So let's go back and talk about that and break that down. He says, "It follows then that the range of our possibilities at the present time does not extend far beyond the range of our present concepts." What does that mean? That's our mental equivalent, the range of good that we can imagine for our lives. And it doesn't quite extend farther than the good that we have in our life now. But he says, as we bring ourselves to a greater vision in our experience, that good expands. And there is a continual growth and unfoldment of our consciousness. Are you with me? Little by little, we can unfold our consciousness, and through the acquisition of greater and still greater mental equivalents, there is always more good, more love, more harmony, more joy, more abundance, more balance, more wisdom for us to experience, for us to express. So how do we do that? Number one, we trust the process. If the divine intelligence and love that we call God has placed a larger idea in you, then the opportunity is for us to trust that there is a path to get us there. It might take time. It might be uncomfortable. It might require you to learn new things. but you will be guided and inspired along the way. Number 1, trust the process. Number 2, trust the principle. God is love, and the universe is inherently good. That means that the path of your life, the path of your good, is so wide that you can never possibly leave it. Whatever choice, whatever decision that you make will ultimately help you get to your good. Ernest Holmes writes in The Science of Mind on page 383. He says, "We believe in God and that it is good. What more can life demand of us than that we do our best and try to improve? If we have done this, we have done well, and all will be right with our souls." All that is expected of us is that we do our best and try to improve. Number 3. So the first one is trust the process. Number 2, trust the principle. Number 3, we choose and we choose again. When we hesitate because we don't know which way to go, sometimes you can just choose a way. Trust that there's going to be information in that direction. It might simply be that it's not the right way to go, but now that we know that, we can choose again. Oftentimes we discern through action as opposed to knowing anything before we move. But the truth is that it's all for us. Everything that we experience can serve us if we let it. One practice is to find and create an affirmation that you can use when you're pushing up against your comfort zone. Ernest Holmes' famous affirmation that we sang today. There are also beautiful affirmations and meditations written by our founder, Ernest Holmes, in the back of the Science of Mind textbook. And I just happened to be looking this morning, and I found this one. It's on page 527. He says, "The way is made clear before me. I do not falter nor fall. The way of spirit is my way, and I am compelled to walk in it. My feet are kept on the path of perfect life. The way is prepared before me, and the way is a path of peace, of fulfillment and joy. The way is bright with the light of love and kindness. The way I tread is a pleasant and happy one. I see the way, and I walk in it." Perfect affirmation. There is only one life. That life is God. That life is my life now. The life of God is big, it is expansive, it is all love, it is all law, it is all principle. Number 4, know that you are supported. Choose to be around people who support you into stepping into that new divine pattern, that new vision for your life. Find a practitioner or a prayer partner who will support you in prayer on a regular basis. That's part of why this spiritual community exists. The people in this Zoom room, right here and right now, are your cheerleaders. They're your support team. We're here to remind you of your intention, your power, and the principles of our faith and philosophy. I know that there is a divine idea in the mind of God for our lives, for our world, and for CSL Beaumont. I know that as this spiritual community steps into that greater spiritual pattern, that expanding consciousness, that expanding comfort zone. As a spiritual community, both individually and collectively, in the coming months and the years, this is a perfect opportunity as we are approaching that idea of reopening and regathering and rising again. That this is a time of embracing a new spiritual idea for our spiritual community. There's times that when that path is not going to be clear. It's going to have times when things feel uncomfortable and uncertain. But we trust the process. We trust the principle. We keep choosing to expand and grow and support each other in love. And when we do that, there is no limit to the good waiting to be expressed. No limit to the impact that this spiritual community can have on the world. And so, as I close out my time with you today, I know that we have talked about this idea of vision, of greater expression, of greater principle. We have talked about embracing change, letting go of what no longer serves you. And I know that that divine pattern is showing up in all of our lives. And if there's ever anything that I can do personally to support you on that path, I encourage you to reach out. And so it is. And now I invite you to join me in prayer this morning. And recognize with me that there is just this one life. This one life that we call good, that we call God, that we call love, that we call abundance and beauty and wisdom and peace and perfect right action. It is that thing itself which we call God. It is everywhere present. It is omniscient. It is all-knowing, all-powerful. It is at the center of every atom, every cell, every star, every wave. It is at the center of all creation, equally present here as it is everywhere. It is the circle and the circumference. It is the past and the present, the future. It is mind and body and soul. It is that thing which we call God, and it is all that there is. It is that one life that is perfect. And I know that that one life is expressing in and through and as me right now. That one life which is perfect, that one life that is all power, all principle is my life now. And what I know is true about me, I know is true for everyone within the sound of my voice, whether they are watching this now or later. I know that the divine light, the divine perfection, that divine pattern is showing up in and through and as each person here this morning. Not only are they expressions of God, but they are that good itself. They are that love itself. They are God meeting God, God expressing God. The individualization of God. And so knowing that is true, I know that whatever there is a perception of need this morning, I know that that need is fully met. Wherever there is a feeling, a lack of wholeness, there is wholeness now. Wherever there is a need of balance or peace, that balance and that peace is right where they are. Wherever there is a need of divine right action and wisdom and grace, it is right where you are this morning. I speak my word for every single person within this spiritual community and for this spiritual community itself, knowing that the divine light of God is shining in, through, and as you right now. That light is pushing away any sense of darkness, any sense of lack, any imbalance. And in its place, I simply know that love is, that God is, that abundance is, that balance is, that joy is, because that is all there can be. As we turn our attention to God, as we step into that divine pattern, as we say yes and trust that process, as we celebrate the principle that it is all good, all of the time. I know that God is showing up in, through, and as every single person this morning, and as this spiritual community. And so I am grateful for that. I step into gratitude, knowing the good and the great things that are happening in every single person's life and in the life of this community. All the ways that God is showing up. All the ways that wholeness and goodness and balance and peace, all the ways that it is showing up. And in great joy, I release this word into the law, knowing that that law of cause and effect reflects back to us everything that we have planted into it, just as sure as day follows night. I know that that law is already acting upon my word. And so I simply release it into that law in full faith, in full confidence that all that I have spoken is true and is showing up in our life now. And I simply release my word and I simply say, and so it is. Thank you for joining me for the last 6 weeks, and I look forward to joining you again. Namaste.
Thank you for participating in our service. You can do online giving by texting GIVE to 951-420-6909. You can visit our website at cslbeaumont.org and click the donate button at the bottom or the top of the screen. Or you can mail your donation to Center for Spiritual Living, 802 Maple Avenue, Beaumont, California, 92223. If you enjoyed this service and are watching on YouTube or Facebook, please like and share this video and add a comment on it. If you haven't already on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel and hit the little notification bell to be updated when we post new content. For those on Zoom, visit our Facebook page to comment and share to help spread this message.